Not every masterpiece becomes a hit. Some amazing games were buried by bigger releases, misunderstood, or simply sold poorly. But years later, they're remembered for their unforgettable stories, brilliant gameplay, and wasted potential. Here are 16 games that flopped commercially, but absolutely deserve to succeed. Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy.
Alias Whoop, you want to tell us what's going on with Contraxia?
Don't think they're gonna give us a tour, Peter!
When Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy launched, most people had already made up their minds before they even touched it. After the disappointment of Marvel's Avengers, players expected another forgettable cash grab, and that first impression buried one of the best single-player adventures of the generation. From the opening moments, the game wins you over with its greatest strength. The Guardians actually feel like a family. They argue, joke, interrupt each other, and never stop talking, but somehow it all feels genuine instead of forced. As Star-Lord, you're not just fighting alongside Rocket, Groot, Gamora, and Drax. You slowly become the glue holding this dysfunctional crew together. Beneath all the humor is a surprisingly emotional story about grief, guilt, and finding hope after loss, with several moments that genuinely catch you off guard. Every new planet is bursting with color and personality, making exploration feel like stepping into a living comic book, while the licensed soundtrack turns even the biggest battles into unforgettable cinematic moments. It deserved to be remembered as one of Marvel's greatest gaming adaptations, yet so many players skipped it because of the baggage another game left behind. Years later, it's clear this wasn't just a good Marvel game. It was an outstanding story-driven adventure that never got the audience it truly deserved.
You flatnards are gonna pay for whatever you're doing to Contraxia!
Your voice is annoying, Ben! Keep it up!
All enemies have a weakness! Gut shots usually work pretty good! And on the ground as well!
Careful!
Drop it on them!
Alan Wake 2.
Change of topic, please.
If there's one game that proves AAA studios can still take creative risks, it's Alan Wake 2. This isn't a game that rushes to impress you, it slowly pulls you into a nightmare until you can't tell what's real anymore. One moment, you're investigating ritualistic murders as FBI agent Saga Anderson in the quiet forests of Bright Falls, and the next, you're trapped inside Alan Wake's twisted version of New York, where reality rewrites itself with every page of a story. That contrast is what makes the experience unforgettable. Every location drips with atmosphere, from rain-soaked streets reflecting neon lights to dark forests where every distant sound makes you hesitate before taking another step. The combat is tense, but it's the storytelling that truly hooks you. Live-action sequences blend seamlessly with gameplay, surreal musical moments somehow fit perfectly, and every mystery only raises bigger questions. Instead of overwhelming you with non-stop action, the game builds suspense through silence, exploration, and pure psychological dread. Maybe that's why it didn't become an instant blockbuster. It demands patience and your full attention. But if you give yourself over to its strange rhythm, Alan Wake 2 becomes more than a horror game. It's one of the boldest, most unforgettable storytelling experiences modern gaming has ever delivered.
Plastic ear mask! General!
Occultist. A monster. Like Nightingale.
Prey. Most people looked at Prey in 2017, shrugged, and moved on. And honestly, that's one of the biggest mistakes the gaming community ever made. What looked like just another sci-fi shooter was actually one of the smartest, most immersive games of its generation. You wake up as Morgan Yu aboard Talos 1, a massive space station where something has gone horribly wrong. The halls are silent, the crew is gone, and terrifying aliens called the Typhon can disguise themselves as everyday objects. One second you're walking past a coffee mug, the next it's launching straight at your face. But the real magic isn't the monsters, it's the freedom. Every obstacle feels like a puzzle with multiple solutions. Hack the door, crawl through the vents, stack objects to reach a hidden path, or embrace alien abilities and rewrite the rules entirely. The station itself tells a haunting story through abandoned offices, emails, and forgotten lives, making every room feel meaningful. Then, just when you think you've figured everything out, the game starts questioning your choices, your identity, and even your perception of reality. It's the kind of experience that lingers long after the credits roll, proving that sometimes the greatest masterpieces are the ones almost everyone overlooked. Mad Max. Few games capture the feeling of pure survival quite like Mad Max. From the moment Max loses everything, you're thrown into a brutal wasteland where your car isn't just transportation, it's your lifeline. Every piece of scrap you collect, every enemy convoy you destroy, and every upgrade you bolt onto the magnum opus brings you one step closer to building the ultimate machine for survival. And that's where the game truly shines. The vehicle combat is absolutely addictive, turning every chase into a chaotic battle of exploding engines, flying metal, and desperate last-second escapes. Rip enemy tires off with a harpoon, ram armored convoys into the sand, or launch yourself through the desert with a roaring V8 beneath you. It never gets old. Outside the driver's seat, the wasteland is hauntingly beautiful, filled with abandoned ruins, endless dunes, and a lonely atmosphere that perfectly captures the spirit of the films. Unfortunately, the game never got the attention it deserved. Launching on the exact same day as Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain buried it beneath one of gaming's biggest releases, and many dismissed it as just another movie tie-in. They couldn't have been more wrong. Mad Max isn't just a licensed game, it's one of the most immersive open-world survival adventures of its generation.
Bring it back out! Take the can! Casa Brita! Kill that room! Kill! Let's go! Get the Necro boys over! Yeah!
Dishonored 2.
Between home and work. Any attempts to hinder the Grand Guard in their...
There are great games. And then there's Dishonored 2, the kind of game that makes you stop and wonder how developers even built something this ambitious. It doesn't just give you a mission and tell you to follow the objective. It hands you an entire playground and asks, how would you do it? Whether you choose Corvo or Emily, every level becomes your own story. You can slip through the shadows without leaving a trace, possess enemies, blink across rooftops, or unleash supernatural chaos and leave an entire mansion in ruins. But the real masterpiece is the level design. The legendary Clockwork Mansion constantly shifts around you like a living puzzle, while a crack in the slab lets you seamlessly jump between two timelines, changing the past to reshape the present in ways that still feel mind-blowing today. It's the kind of creativity that almost never exists in AAA games anymore. Sadly, a rough PC launch, missing day one reviews, and an incredibly crowded release window buried it before it had a chance to shine. Underneath those launch problems, though, is one of the finest immersive sims ever created. A game that rewards curiosity, creativity, and experimentation at every single turn. If you skipped it because of the early criticism, you missed one of the greatest game design achievements of the last decade.
Coming from Karnataka, the window's gonna be a draw. Big fish in a small pond. He makes good money playing traditional.
More bad things have happened here in the last
It's
5
exotic
years
to the
than
people
in
there.
all the years of my life.
It's pretty much anything but meat and potatoes would be.
Alpha Protocol. Most spy games let you pretend to be a secret agent. Alpha Protocol actually makes you think like one. It drops you into the shoes of Mike Thornton, an operative who's been betrayed by his own agency and forced to navigate a world where every conversation feels like a loaded gun. The genius of the game is that your choices aren't just good or evil. They're professional, aggressive, or smooth, and you have to make them in real time. Hesitate too long, and the moment passes. One wrong attitude can turn an ally into an enemy, while a well-timed response might unlock an entirely different path through the story. That constant tension makes every interaction feel unpredictable. Then you add the globe-trotting missions, the gadgets, the hacking, the stealth options, and the freedom to approach objectives however you want. You can sneak through a compound like a ghost, talk your way past guards, or kick the door in and start a firefight. Unfortunately, the clunky shooting and rough animations scared a lot of players away at launch, but underneath that jank was something incredibly ambitious, a spy RPG where your relationships, decisions, and reputation genuinely reshape the experience. Even today, almost no game does what Alpha Protocol attempted, and that's exactly why it's become such a beloved hidden gem. Sleeping Dogs. If there's one game that deserved to become a massive franchise, it's Sleeping Dogs. At first glance, it looks like another open-world crime game, but the moment you step into the neon-soaked streets of Hong Kong, you realize it's chasing something completely different. You play as Wei Shun, an undercover cop forced to infiltrate the Triads, and every mission pulls him deeper into a world where the line between duty and loyalty slowly disappears. That's what makes the story so compelling. You're not just watching a gangster rise through the ranks, you're watching a man slowly lose himself. And when the emotional moments hit, they hit hard. Then there's the combat, which still feels incredible today. Instead of hiding behind cover, you're throwing brutal punches, countering attacks, and smashing enemies into phone booths, air conditioners, and anything else the environment gives you. Every fight feels raw, fast, and satisfying. Outside the action, Hong Kong becomes a character of its own. Rain reflects off glowing neon signs, crowded night markets buzz with life, and every street feels packed with personality. Maybe it launched at the wrong time, or maybe too many people dismissed it as a GTA clone, but years later, Sleeping Dogs still stands as one of the most unforgettable open-world games ever made. The Order 1886. At first glance, The Order 1886 looks like the game everyone warned you about. Too short, too cinematic, too focused on storytelling. But once you stop judging it for what it isn't and experience it for what it actually is, you discover one of the most visually stunning and atmospheric adventures of its generation. Set in an alternate Victorian London where the legendary Knights of the Round Table wage a secret war against monstrous half-breeds, the world is drenched in fog, gaslight, and steampunk technology. Every street, every cathedral, and every hidden alley feels like it belongs in a dark fantasy film. Even years later, the facial animations, lighting, and environmental detail remain genuinely impressive. As Sir Galahad, you're pulled into a conspiracy that slowly unravels everything you thought you knew, turning a simple monster hunt into something far more personal. The combat may be straightforward, but the weighty weapons and cinematic set pieces keep every encounter exciting. Unfortunately, expectations worked against it. Many players wanted a massive open-world blockbuster, while The Order 1886 was always designed to be a tightly paced, story-driven experience. It may not have been the epic franchise Sony hoped for, but as a focused cinematic adventure, it's still an unforgettable ride that deserved far more appreciation.
Damn it, reloading! Coach gun, at the far end. Clear. Keep moving. We have to find that second device. One of them's taking suppressing fire. I'll provide cover.
Days Gone. Days Gone is one of those rare games that rewards patience. If you only play the opening few hours, it feels like another post-apocalyptic survival game. But stick with it, and it slowly transforms into one of the most emotional journeys PlayStation has ever delivered. You step into the boots of Deacon St. John, a drifter haunted by the loss of his wife and desperately clinging to the hope that she might still be alive. His story isn't about saving the world, it's about finding a reason to keep living in one that's already fallen apart. The world itself constantly keeps you on edge. Your motorcycle isn't just a vehicle, it's your survival tool. Run out of fuel in the middle of nowhere, and every distant scream suddenly becomes terrifying. Then there are the freaker hordes, hundreds of infected charging at once, turning every encounter into a frantic fight for survival where planning matters just as much as aim. As the story unfolds, the emotional weight grows stronger, the characters become more memorable, and the world begins to feel genuinely alive. A rough launch and mixed reviews stopped many people from giving it a fair chance. But years later, Days Gone has earned the appreciation it always deserved. It's far more than another zombie game. It's a story about hope, loss, and refusing to give up when everything else already has.
I gotta go. Dicking out. Addie, you there?
Yeah, Deacon, what's up?
I got Boozer the dog, and it worked, just like you said.
Well, I'm glad. You know you're a good friend. He's lucky to have you.
Lost Odyssey. Some RPGs tell you an epic story. Lost Odyssey makes you feel the weight of one. It begins with Kaim Argonar, an immortal warrior who has lived for 1,000 years, watching everyone he has ever loved grow old and disappear while he remains unchanged. That single idea gives the entire journey an emotional depth that few RPGs have ever matched. Yes, there's a grand conflict filled with kingdoms, magic, and political intrigue, but the real story is about memory, grief, and the unbearable loneliness of outliving everyone around you. The game's unforgettable 1,000 Years of Dreams sequences elevate that even further. Through beautifully written short stories accompanied by haunting music, you experience fragments of Kaim's past that are often more heartbreaking than entire games. It's storytelling at its absolute finest. The classic turn-based combat is equally rewarding, blending strategic battles with a clever skill-sharing system that keeps every party member valuable throughout the adventure. Unfortunately, launching as an Xbox 360 exclusive meant many JRPG fans never experienced it, and it quietly faded into the background despite glowing praise from those who did. Years later, Lost Odyssey stands as one of the greatest modern JRPGs. A timeless adventure that proves the most powerful stories aren't always about saving the world, but about finding the strength to keep living after losing everything. Quantum Break. When people talk about Quantum Break, they usually remember the live-action TV episodes. And honestly, that's a shame, because buried beneath that strange experiment is one of Remedy's most exhilarating games. It all begins with a time travel experiment that goes catastrophically wrong, leaving reality itself on the verge of collapse. Suddenly, you're Jack Joyce, a man who can bend time to his will, and from that moment on, every fight becomes a spectacle. You're not hiding behind cover waiting for enemies to peek, you're freezing bullets in mid-air, dashing across the battlefield in the blink of an eye, trapping enemies inside time bubbles, then watching an entire magazine hit them all at once when time snaps back into place. It feels fast, stylish, and unbelievably satisfying. Outside the combat, Remedy delivers the cinematic storytelling it's famous for, with a stellar cast and a sci-fi mystery that constantly keeps you guessing. The fractured timelines, frozen explosions, and collapsing environments still look stunning years later. Unfortunately, the marketing focused so heavily on the TV show gimmick that many players overlooked what was actually there: an incredibly polished action game with creative mechanics and a story full of classic Remedy weirdness. If you can look past the experiment, you'll find a hidden gem that deserved far more attention than it ever received. Enslaved Odyssey to the West. There's something quietly tragic about Enslaved Odyssey to the West because it arrived years before cinematic, character-driven adventures became the standard. At first, it seems like another post-apocalyptic action game, but within minutes, you realize this world has a completely different soul. Nature has reclaimed civilization, skyscrapers are buried beneath vines, sunlight pours through crumbling buildings, and abandoned cities feel hauntingly beautiful instead of lifeless. But the real reason this game stays with you is the relationship between Monkey and Trip. They don't start as friends. In fact, Monkey is literally forced to protect her through a device that can kill him if he disobeys. It's an uncomfortable setup, but watching that relationship slowly transform from resentment into genuine trust feels incredibly human. Andy Serkis brings Monkey to life with so much emotion that every conversation feels natural, while Trip's vulnerability and determination make her impossible not to care about. Their constant arguments, quiet moments, and growing bond become the heart of the journey. The combat is fun, the platforming keeps the adventure moving, and the world is packed with breathtaking vistas. But it's the emotional storytelling that truly carries the experience. Enslaved may have been overlooked when it launched, but today it feels like a forgotten blueprint for the cinematic adventures that would later dominate the industry.
Affirmative, Slave 949. Combat mech activating.
Ryse, Son of Rome. Ryse, Son of Rome was written off far too quickly. Most people remember it as the game that showed off the Xbox One's graphics, but underneath those stunning visuals is a cinematic revenge story that deserves far more credit. You play as Marius Titus, a loyal Roman soldier whose life is shattered when his family is brutally murdered. What begins as a quest for vengeance soon grows into an epic journey through war, betrayal, and the collapse of an empire. Every battlefield feels massive, with soldiers clashing all around you, arrows raining from the sky, and towering siege weapons turning every encounter into a spectacle. The combat isn't overly complex, but that's exactly why it works. Every sword swing carries weight, every shield bash feels powerful, and the brutal execution animations make you feel like an unstoppable Roman centurion carving a path through chaos. Even today, the facial animations, armor detail, and cinematic presentation remain incredibly impressive. Unfortunately, critics focused almost entirely on the repetitive gameplay and overlooked everything the game did well. They saw a tech demo while many players discovered a focused action-adventure with genuine heart and unforgettable atmosphere. Ryse, Son of Rome may never have become the blockbuster franchise Microsoft hoped for, but it's still one of the most underrated cinematic action games of its generation. Spec Ops: The Line. At first glance, Spec Ops: The Line looks like every other military shooter from the early 2000s. Sand-covered city, soldiers with rifles, another mission to save the day. You've seen it all before. But that's exactly how it wants you to feel. It slowly earns your trust, then tears apart everything you thought you knew about being the hero. You play as Captain Martin Walker, leading a small squad into a ruined Dubai to investigate a missing battalion. What begins as a simple rescue mission quickly spirals into a psychological nightmare where every decision carries consequences, and every victory feels a little less heroic than the last. The deeper you push into the city, the more the game forces you to confront uncomfortable questions about violence, guilt, and the true cost of war. It's not trying to make you feel powerful, it wants you to feel responsible. While the cover shooting itself is solid, it's the storytelling that leaves a lasting mark, delivering moments so shocking they'll stay with you long after the credits roll. Sadly, most players dismissed it as just another generic shooter and never discovered the masterpiece hiding beneath its familiar exterior. Spec Ops: The Line isn't simply a war game, it's one of gaming's most unforgettable psychological journeys.
Yeah. Okay? Do I sound okay? Get your asses down here!
Fucking die! Spread out and take the perimeter! Right back! Motherfucker! Killed him! Where's that goddamn reinforcement? One guy left there! Kill him!
Mirror's Edge. Mirror's Edge didn't just introduce a new mechanic, it made movement the entire experience. At a time when almost every action game was obsessed with bigger guns and bigger explosions, this one challenged you to keep running. You play as Faith, a rooftop courier in a sleek, futuristic city where everything looks clean and perfect on the surface, yet underneath lies a society built on surveillance and control. The moment you start sprinting, something clicks. Every leap across rooftops, every wall run, perfectly timed roll, and desperate jump becomes part of one continuous flow. Instead of fighting the environment, you're dancing with it. That's what makes Mirror's Edge feel so special even today. Its minimalist art style with bright white buildings broken up by bold splashes of color still looks fresh because it wasn't chasing realism. It created its own identity. Unfortunately, many players expected a traditional action game, and the steep learning curve, lack of hand-holding, and emphasis on momentum pushed them away. But those who embraced its rhythm discovered something unforgettable. It's short, focused, and refreshingly free of filler, proving that sometimes a single brilliant idea is all a game needs. Years later, countless titles have borrowed its parkour mechanics, yet Mirror's Edge still feels like nothing else, because no one has quite captured that same feeling of absolute freedom.
That bird ain't playing around. Get your ass to the CEC News building. I'm finding you a way out. Get running, girls.
Beyond Good and Evil. Some games become cult classics because they were ahead of their time, and Beyond Good and Evil is one of the best examples. It doesn't open with explosions or world-ending stakes. It starts with Jade, an ordinary photojournalist caring for a group of orphaned children in a peaceful corner of the planet Hillies. But when mysterious alien attacks continue and the government's story begins to fall apart, Jade does what no one else is willing to do. She starts asking questions. Armed with nothing more than a camera, curiosity, and the determination to uncover the truth, she slowly finds herself at the center of a conspiracy far bigger than she ever imagined. That's what makes this adventure so memorable. You're not just fighting enemies, you're gathering evidence, sneaking through restricted areas, solving puzzles, photographing wildlife, and uncovering secrets that make the world feel alive. The colorful cast, beautiful soundtrack, and heartfelt storytelling give the entire journey a warmth that's incredibly rare, even today. Unfortunately, it launched without much attention and was overshadowed by bigger releases, leaving many players to miss one of Ubisoft's finest creations. Years later, Beyond Good and Evil is remembered not as a commercial flop, but as a timeless adventure filled with charm, heart, and a world that's impossible to forget.